Hi Chris, it's good to see you. I thought before we get started, probably it's a good opportunity to meet the senior management team here at Liniar. So I'll start with myself. So I'm Martin Thurley and I'm the Group Managing Director for Liniar and Avantec. I'll pass you on to Nigel.
Good morning, Chris. Nice to see you. My name's Nigel Bishop and I'm the Group Sales Director of Liniar and Avantec, looking after all of the sales teams across all products. I'll pass you over to Andrea.
Hi, I'm Andrea. I'm the Financial Controller and responsible for the day-to-day management of the finance team.
Hi, I'm Chris. I head up the design and development team. Together we look after all new product launches and innovations.
Hi, I'm also Chris. I look after our logistics function covering warehouse and transport and responsible for the safe receipt, store, pick, pack and delivery of all things Liniar.
Hi Chris, I'm Colin. I've worked at Liniar since 2007, since its inception, and I currently head up the commercial and procurement side of the business.
Hi Chris, I'm Daz. I'm the Operations Director for Secondary Ops. Second Ops manufacture roof kits, deck kits and alumina bifolding doors.
Hi Chris, I'm Eddie. I'm Group Operations Director, which means I look after all manufacturing operations.
Hi Chris, I'm Jeff. I'm the Projects Director. I get involved in all sorts of interesting projects and currently working on a warehouse improvement project.
Hello Chris, I'm Paul. I head up Liniar's technical services team and we're here to support our customers with all their technical needs.
Hi Chris, my name is Pete and I look after the inventory levels, production planning and a lot of the continuous improvement projects at Liniar.
Hi Chris, I'm Sue. I look after the marketing function here at Liniar and Avantec. Every day is different and it makes life interesting.
Hi, I'm Monica Bailey. As Group Finance Director, I'm in charge of the overall finances and regulatory compliance for our group. I also work closely with commercial negotiations with our customers, managing our working capital, and I'm also in charge of all the reporting requirements for our parent company, Quanex, in the US.
Hello, I'm Jane Marie. I head up our HR team and support the business in the people-related activities, including recruitment, engagement, employee relations and development.
Hi, I'm John Haywood, the IT Director. So basically, if it's got a plug on it, my team will support it or they will program it.
Good.
Thanks very much. That's very helpful actually, just to have a run through everything. Trying to remember everybody is almost impossible, but it's a good rundown as to what you all do, and thank you very much for that. I mean, talking about 2020, I mean, obviously it will have affected you to a certain extent, but what about the whole issues of supply chain, furloughing of staff, and still being able to offer the service that you're well known for to your fabricators? I mean, big issues?
Yeah, I think it was. There's no doubt 2020 was a challenge. And I think firstly, as you'd expect, we focused on our people. You know, their safety and welfare is extremely important to us, as you can imagine. It was a very difficult time. You know, people are furloughed. And for the first time, people are understanding what that word means. I think it was a very, very difficult time. And, you know, I'm very proud of Liniar and what we did, because during that time, that first month when we closed down, we actually paid people at 100%. So we realized that it was a time of great anxiety and worry for people. People were leaving unsure about their jobs when we'd closed the factory down. They're then worried about their finances and how they're going to cope. So what we tried to do is support them at that time when, as I say, they were at their most anxious and concerned. So we looked after their physical well-being, and then we tried to take some real pressure off them as well by paying them 100% during that early period. So very, very proud of what we did there. And in terms of service and our approach to that and starting back up, I mean, I'll let Nigel answer some of that really, who's in a better position to answer that.
Yeah, Chris, it's a good question, and I'm sure one that everybody's going to have their own story to tell. I could probably spend all afternoon talking to you about just that one question, to be honest with you, because it was, it was an immense thing to go through. But I think the most important thing for me, looking after the customers and the communication with them, was how quickly we reacted. I can remember having a conversation with one customer in particular at 6 o'clock in the morning on the 26th, where he said, please tell me you're not shutting down. And I said, no, of course we're not. And then 2 hours later, we were announcing to the industry that we were actually closing, because that was how quickly it took us over, the whole country, to be fair. So the key thing for us to maintain the service was reassuring customers, and the sales teams across Liniar and Avantec did a great job of that, including, you know, all of the internal staff. Everybody was contacting customers and making sure they were aware of the situation. I think without that level of communication, it would have been more problematic, but because everybody knew where they were and we started to make a plan, it went very, very well, in my opinion.
Yes, I think in summary, really, very difficult, challenging for lots of people on many, many levels. And I think as we reflect, we should be very proud, and everybody should be very proud of what they've done there, really. I think we went the extra mile, as I say, in looking after our own team and customers. And yeah, very, very proud of what everybody did.
You've been quoted as saying that you were in a good position coming out of 2020. Can we look at that a bit closer? Did you manage to get back on budget by the end of the year? Were you around your normal turnover figures? How did that work?
Yeah, so yeah, as we exit 2020, it was pleasing to see that from a financial point of view, then we'd performed very, very well, actually, very, very close to budgets and pretty much up on prior year, which is great for us. Of course, 2020 was far more than just running a P&L statement for us, as we all know. But yeah, very, very pleasing. We had a very strong Q3, Q4, so that more than made up for any loss that we had during that 6 or 7 weeks when we were closed. So very, very strong, very pleased with that. And also, you know, we took a decision as well to work over Christmas, and that was a big decision. We had to make that call early on in November. We traditionally were a 24/7 operation, and we normally close obviously throughout Christmas. But we decided we had to take a punt, really, and decide, shall we work or shall we not? And we decided to, which was great. I'm pleased that we did. It was a big ask as well. People had worked very, very hard. People had been working long hours throughout Q3 and Q4. So it was a big ask. And, you know, I was delighted with the uptake that we had, really. Everybody did a great job. We had a vast majority of the team in, and we effectively ran this as a 24/7 operation over Christmas. So very, very pleased. But what that enabled us to do, really, was get ahead of sales, get our inventory back up to the levels that we want and a little bit more. So we effectively increased inventory by about £2 million, which set us up nicely then. When we came back in January, we knew we could continue to work and produce more than we were selling during January. So with that extra buffer stock that we could put in over Christmas, it set us up really well for 2021. And yeah, I'll let Nigel tell you a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. From my point of view, Chris, you know, 2020 from March the 26th onwards was a very turbulent time, ups and downs, emotions high, emotions low. And the real difficult thing for Liniar to swallow, if you will, was shorting customers, because it's something that we just don't do. You know, under normal circumstances, our OTIF numbers are in the high 99s, and you know, we just don't do that. So it was very alien, not only for the sales teams and the technical team and the internal teams at Liniar to comprehend that, but mainly our customers. They just weren't used to it at all. So that was a big thing coming out of 2020, and it was fantastic that on January the 4th, when we came back, the numbers that the teams had produced for us in lamination and production during that Christmas working, as Martin alludes to, were phenomenal. I mean, they were absolutely unbelievable. They grafted night and day, shift after shift, bouncing it one after the other to make sure that this business was in prime position, pole position when we came back. And we were, since January the 4th, our on time in full has been right back up there again. The shortages list was virtually non-existent in the first week. In fact, from memory, we were 56 products out of stock week one back in January, and that came down to below 16 products out of stock within a few working days. So from a customer point of view, from a customer service point of view, from an internal satisfaction point of view, I think we started 2021 brilliantly, and it's just continued that way.
Yeah, and I think just to touch on that, you know, the stockouts, none of those were what we call bread and milk items. So there weren't big runners for us. We run over 6,000 individual SKUs in this business. And this was very much some of the smaller tail end stuff that we still had to sort of catch up a little bit on stock. But in terms of the main items, then yes, service was there. Most importantly, the acid test really is, do customers feel that service is back on track? And that's the feedback that we've got. So phenomenal. The other reason that we are well set up as well is that this business here is effectively set up to run at around 60% capacity. So we're only operating at around 60% of capacity. So we have fantastic headroom for growth, which is phenomenal for us. And it does mean that if demand does increase suddenly like it did last year, then for us, it's really trying to find additional labor. We're not looking to, it's not about capital expenditure, it's not about extra machinery, it's not about growing the premises at all. It really is just about finding the labor to sort of go through the gears and run through those gears and try and produce more. So it's still a challenge, and we typically run with around 500 people. During the height of 2020, we upped that number to around 700 people. And we did that over probably 4 to 5 week periods. That's 200 new people. We have to find them, induct them, train them, make them part of our family. And it has its challenges, but we did very, very well. And as I say, one thing is, whenever we want to go through the gears and produce more, it's really around labor. We're very, very fortunate that we have that excess capacity in our business. And that's helped us tremendously now. And it will do in 2021, because I don't think there are many of our competitors that have really got that headroom for growth and that infrastructure, which means we can go through the gears very, very quickly. So we are well set up. Proud of 2020. Very pleased with everybody's efforts over Christmas to come and help us to be well set up for 2021. And we feel we're in a really good position now. And that's good, really, because I do think there's a lot of opportunity out there. Everybody's unsure about how the market's going to perform going forward. We've all got our views on this, but nobody really knows. That's the reality. The only thing we know from a Liniar point of view is that we have that capacity, we've got the headroom, service is very well controlled. And that's really been Liniar's model for over a decade. We have excess capacity, very high levels of stock, and that buffers any of the day-to-day issues that come our way, because we all have issues. But with that buffer, it means we can maintain service, and that puts us in I think it puts us in a great position, really.
I mean, that's interesting, because you must have, obviously it changed, presumably, the budgets. I mean, how supportive were Quanex over this? Because you presumably were having to go back to them and saying, hold on, chaps, I'm afraid we're going to have to spend a bit more here because we've got a lot of demand, we need to take on more people. I mean, have they been supportive in this? I know they've always looked at you as the shining light, so yeah, you're kind of blue-eyed boys, I know that, but it was a very different thing, and they had the same problems over in the US. So how did they react to it? Did they support you?
Yeah, that's a really good point, Chris. And, you know, again, being totally honest on that one, you know, Quanex have been fantastic. And people expect me to say that in my position. I'm sure they do, but trust me, they are. You know, I've worked for 2 or 3 different similar organizations in my time, and I can say without doubt, Quanex have been absolutely the most supportive, really. And to give you an idea of that, you know, on the last day here, when we closed down on the 26th of March, I take a picture out of this window behind us, which overlooks the extrusion hall. We're a 24/7 environment. It's always running, but we'd actually stopped the complete operation, and we were just about to close the front door, really. So I took a picture and I sent it to my boss in America, George, who's the CEO and president of the business. And George, you know, what does the future hold? You know, and that's how we all felt. Even I did, you know, when I left here, nobody really knew. This was so new to us all and so uncertain that it was worrying for everybody involved. So George, in his typical way, you know, he calls me back and says, Martin, who knows? But, you know, we're here, we're behind you. If you've got any problems, let me know. There's no issues around finances, which there wasn't. Quanex are in a very, very strong position in terms of financials. They've got a fantastic balance sheet. But more than that, you know, they're very supportive, you know, not just financially, but, you know, physically and emotionally. You know, they understand and they help us. So I couldn't speak highly enough of Quanex. They've been phenomenal. when we say we're working Christmas, and we're taking a bit of a punt at that time, you know, there's a big cost to running at Christmas. And also that was a big commitment to effectively try and raise inventory by £2 million in such uncertain times. And it's just not really a debate. You know, the feedback we get is, you guys know your market. It's all about service, and do whatever you've got to do to look after customers. And that's the reality. So yeah, I couldn't speak highly enough of them. Extremely supportive. And again, you know, they're listed on the New York Stock Exchange, but they're not venture capitalists. You know, these are manufacturing people who take a more medium to long-term view of the business. And I think that's been proven. When they acquired this business in 2015, it was a fantastic facility, world-class manufacturing facility set up by Roger, as we know. It was superb and in pristine condition when Roger sold this business. But since then, since 2015, Quanex have spent around $60 million. And that's not been fixing anything. That's just this continued investment into the business. They know the model. The model that Roger had was high levels of investment, state-of-the-art machinery, and enough capacity and inventory to ensure customer service was very good. Quanex have continued in exactly the same vein. So yeah, very, very good. And we're very fortunate. You know, I think if I probably go back and think about customers, perhaps in 2015, they think that, you know, Roger's sold and now it's Quanex, and who are Quanex, and listed on the New York Stock Exchange. And you get these views and visions, I suppose, about what you think an organization like that is. And are things going to change? And they haven't. We've carried on with exactly the same values. We run exactly the same model. If anything, we've probably just got a very supportive, very wealthy parents. That's how I see it. Very accommodating, very, very supportive. And yeah, couldn't speak highly enough of them. Been fantastic. And I think customers appreciate that now, perhaps. You know, we've seen a lot of uncertainty. We have with our competitors, you know, over the last year or two. There's a lot of our competitors that have been struggling for a variety of reasons. So I think now we've probably gone full circle. And I would hope that coming out of 2020, if you're a customer of Liniar, you think it's business as usual. We're exactly the same business that we were. But if we're going through some very, very difficult and worrying times, it's very nice to know that we are associated with somebody as strong and solid as Quanex. And I think we all feel that way now. So absolutely, in my opinion, win-win.
Yeah. I mean, we've touched on it already about the change in the way we all communicate now. And I suspect that a certain amount of this will continue into the future. I mean, hopefully we'll get back to face-to-face, but we've also found it quite efficient doing these type of Zoom meetings and cutting down on costs, etc. But has that affected your customer focus and the service excellence that you've always strived to provide?
Good question, that, Chris. I think more to the point, has it affected the sales teams that are so used to doing 1,000 miles a week and visiting our customers 5 days a week, sometimes 6, 7 days a week? They've probably struggled a little bit more than the customers in that respect. But yeah, you know, on a serious note, the communication that we've had with our customers had to be absolutely on point. And if you break it down, one of the most important things that had to happen immediately was some method of customers placing orders with Liniar, ready for us coming back to work, which turned out to be May the 11th. So we were fortunate that John Hayward, our IT director, had written an online platform for ordering from Liniar, and that we stepped the launch up of that. We worked with customers, and we made sure that everybody had access to that immediately, so that they could place their orders online with Liniar on Liniar Connect, which was fantastic. Took a lot of managing. The sales order processing teams were fantastic, talking to customers, teaching them how to use the new systems, talking them through and walking them through the new rules of engagement that we obviously had to lay down due to the demand and the logistics and the safety and you know, just the side effects that Corona has when you're delivering to customers several times a week. But I think from a service point of view, I haven't had anything negative from Liniar customers since the turn of the year. Even those customers that were shorted during you know, the highs of 2020 have recalled to us since that the service that Liniar provided was outstanding. And compared with the competition and the industry, I think, you know, Liniar certainly came out number one going into 21.
Those early days of it then, when you were having what, 3 or 4% of people using Liniar Connect, what's the percentage now?
Pre-COVID, January 20, we actually had less than 3% of our customers using Liniar Connect, and now it's high 90s. So an incredible platform. It's evolved as it's gone along. There's an awful lot that we can do with that platform to enhance customer service, communication at all levels, and to keep our customers ahead of the game and able to keep their customers informed, which is so key, that the front end of the supply chain know where we are. I mean, that was really the major points that I picked up. The customers' emotions were kept in check if they knew what was going on and they could pass it on to their customers. So we maintain that. We use several methods of communicating other than obviously directly through the sales teams on the telephone at the moment, because obviously they're still only going to see customers if it's business critical. But we have a newsletter called In Profile that used to go out every couple of weeks, and at some points during last year was going out 2 or 3 times a week as a direct point of contact with our customers to keep them up to date with where we are and what we're doing.
I suppose we were quite fortunate, if that's the word really. We decided to launch this, so in January 2020 we'd gone with Liniar Connect, and the timing was perfect for us really. So we had there's lots of things we wanted to do with that platform anyway, but the timing of that was really useful for us, as Nigel said. So yeah, it's worked out very, very well, and the experience for customers is their feedback to us is that it's really improved their interaction with us as a business. So again, a bit of a win-win for us really, and that's the way that we do things.
You've described it as being back on track after 2020, but we've got added issues, haven't we now, particularly with the supply chain. Resin is talked about as being tricky, the cost of containers, glass, steel. But there are issues out there, aren't there, with the supply chain? I mean, how's that going to affect you going forward?
Yeah, I think supply chain issues is going to be the biggest challenge for everybody in our sector, I think, going forward. There's no doubt about that. And I think, like we've spoke, we've responded very well to that increased demand, and I'd like to think we did very well. And a lot of our suppliers did as well. If we were asking for 50, 60% more than we normally would, and they're delivering 40, 45% more, we can't really criticize people. I think everybody did their absolute utmost to try and meet that extra demand. I think the issue going forward is that demand looks like it's going to continue, certainly into Q1 this year and possibly Q2. So there hasn't been that opportunity for the supply chain to really gather itself really and get back on the front foot. So it's something we are focused on. It's something that concerns us. That's another reason why we've, again, worked over Christmas and produced more during January to try and get inventory levels of both finished goods and raw materials. We've made a big investment overall to try and really stock up in every area that we can. So I think we've certainly done as much as we possibly can. But are we still nervous about that going forward? Yes, we are. And, particularly as it's well documented, I think, regarding take resin supply, which is obviously one of the main ingredients affecting everybody. Again, those suppliers have done very, very well. But now there are issues going to be around plants going down for maintenance. That's a real concern for us as we step into 2021 now. We'll see those plants down performing routine maintenance. Our worry is there, of course, if a plant goes down scheduled for 2 days, could that be 3 or 4 days? Supply is already very tight. So if we have any overrun or further problems regarding the maintenance plans that these suppliers have, then we could be in some difficulty. But the whole industry, that won't just be a Liniar thing. Again, if I think about Liniar, as we do, we have a great relationship with our suppliers. We always do the right thing by our suppliers. We always pay on time, and including when we shut this factory in March 2020, or let's say into April, we have got 0 revenue entering this business, and we are signing off a very large supplier payroll, which we did. And obviously you can imagine a business like ours that runs into the millions, but we did that. We did the right thing. you know, they'd supplied us with material and we do the right thing in paying our bills, basically. So I think people appreciate that. Our suppliers do. They know we do the right thing. They know we're a solid business. So are there going to be difficulties for everybody in the supply chain? Absolutely. The extent of that, I don't think anybody knows at the moment. Is Liniar as well positioned as it can be at the moment? Absolutely. You know, we are. But I do feel, like I say, you know, if you to ask me the 1, 2, 3 on my list of worries stepping into 2021, then the entire supply chain would be something that we're heavily focused on. But as I say, we're doing everything we absolutely can. But I do think that will be problematic for everybody as we step into 2021. I only really see the supply chain being able to gather itself is when demand reduces to some extent, or there's a kind of, the market stabilizes, or there's some kind of correction there. And I can't really see that coming until people are vaccinated and able to travel. And then some of the disposable income that at the moment we're very fortunate is being spent heavily on home improvement, I think will be spent more than on leisure. And I don't know exactly when that is, but I think that's the only time when we see demand reduce slightly, will the entire supply chain have an opportunity to gather itself and get onto the front foot, really. So yeah, very, very focused on that, in a very good position. You know, as we stand today, we're in a very good position. But if I'm honest, we are in the, we're at the mercy of the entire supply chain, really. And everybody's going to have to sort of stick together and work the way through that.
Quanex have always supported you very much, I know, in really pretty much any investment that you needed or wanted. What about it going forward, though? I mean, did they carry on that investment? I mean, they obviously did in 2020 to support you, but what about now? You talked about building, is it another warehouse?
Yeah, so we have, you know, we've got plans for the future. Obviously, as part of our 5-year strategic plan, and a part of that is making sure that we're future-proofed effectively. We are very fortunate. We're on a single site. We do have a small operation off-site, but that'll be coming onto this site during next year. But effectively, we're a single site operation. We're very fortunate that we've got room to maneuver on this site as well. So we've got that land secured, planning secured, and a vast majority of that finance secured through Quanex as well in terms of the future investment. So that will include probably another, we're around 450,000 square feet of operation at the moment here in Denby. And we'll probably add to that at least another 250,000 during next year. So that'll be for warehousing and 1 or 2 other things that we're planning to do on this site. So yeah, very, very lucky. I think, you know, like most people, when I first arrived at Liniar, the one thing you're trying to look at really is that 5-year strategic plan, and what are the kind of things that could actually restrict us or pace us to actually try and execute on that 5-year plan. Now, very often it can be the restrictions and limitations of the site which you occupy, and that's can be a problem typically. Again, very, very fortunate here. We're not. You know, we've got single site operation, we've got physical room to grow, we've got landlord's approval, we've got the capital expenditure for that. So we don't get trapped in terms of footprint at all, which is a really, really useful thing for us, and it'd be great for us. Yeah, Quanex, as I said earlier on, you know, they continue to invest probably $60 million since 2015 on, as again, I'll repeat it again, what was a world-class operation anyway, absolutely pristine condition that Roger handed this business over to Quanex, absolutely superb. So very, very good. They've continued with that. You know, Roger used to have a phrasing here really, as he was always about future investments and trying to create that headroom. We were always 2 or 3, 4 years ahead of our plan in terms of capacity and headroom. And perhaps that's the beauty of being owned by an entrepreneur originally. So that was very good. And Roger used to say that, you know, he'll always invest money into the business. And his phrasing, which I absolutely love, which is, you know, we manage depreciation, not dilapidation. And I think that chimes very, very well. We carry on with that philosophy. Quanex do as well. So our whole future is about, we'd much rather manage depreciation than dilapidation. And what do we really mean by that? We know that we go for state-of-the-art machinery. We replace machinery earlier than is probably necessary in some cases. But why do we do that? It's not because we're flash, because we're not. The reason we do that is because if we go out there and buy new equipment and continually invest into this business, every time you do that, you know that you're buying the latest technology and you're getting the highest level of plant reliability. And that's really what we're about. State-of-the-art machinery, the latest technology that's out there on the market, very well maintained by our team, which means plant reliability here is phenomenal. It's by far the best operation that I've been involved in that regard, in terms of downtime. We just don't suffer with those things. So we have, it sounds very luxurious really, and I'll be honest with you, you know, it is. And we're very, very fortunate, but we do appreciate it. We're not complacent at all, but it's engineered that way. You know, it's not just a fluke. It's not because people have been flash in the past, not because there's just excess cash about. It's a very, very focused strategy. Latest machinery, plenty of capacity and headroom for growth, well-maintained facilities, plant reliability, fantastic. That means that when we set up production plans and we set out to produce a product, we can do. We'll set a plan in the morning at 6 a.m. that we're going to run X, Y, and Z online, ABC, and we'll want it in the warehouse by 4 p.m. that day, and it happens. We don't have those interruptions to our business. And I can't, in a business that's grown as rapidly as Liniar has, that's been fantastic. It's a real comfort. And I'll be honest with you, if we hadn't got that level of headroom on capacity, plant reliability, then we wouldn't be able to sustain that growth. It'd be stop-start. And one of the things we would be doing would be seriously affecting customer service. When we talk to a lot of our customers, we put the graph up of the last 10 years, or 10 or 12 years, which has seen this business grow from £3 or £4 million per year. And this year will exceed £100 million in turnover. But a lot of our customers wouldn't know that. And the reason I'm pleased they don't know that is because as we have grown tremendously, they haven't seen the interruptions. We don't run forward and then have to pause for 6 or 7 months and fix things. We do it very, very gradually to make sure that we can achieve sustainable growth with excellent customer service, because that's the acid test. People are less interested in what you're investing. They're less worried about the size of your operation and the plant. They only really judge you, and their perception is really made on how you're servicing the customer. And again, everything we do is trying to make sure that we're not under pressure and that we can continue that high level of service, because that's really the acid test, and that's the name of the game. We're very passionate about what we do here, and I'm pleased that we are, and you'd expect us to be. But the real acid test is what our customers think of us and not what we really think of ourselves, if I'm honest.
I think to add to that, our customers have done the same thing, haven't they? A lot of our customers have invested in automation in a time where, you know, it's very brave to spend £500,000 on machinery when you don't know what's around the corner. But, you know, we've got some incredible talent in this industry. We always have had some very brave men and women that make decisions for the good and benefit of the business, and reinvesting in automation has paid off for those that have made that leap in 2020 and continue to in 2021. Everybody was pretty much at capacity within 2 or 3 working months of the industry reopening, and anybody that could find any extra capacity anywhere meant more money, more revenue, more profit. So yeah, we encourage that, because Liniar is an absolute, you know, shining example of you know, how much prior preparation and planning prevents poor performance and gives us the ability to grow the business steadily without any knee-jerk reactions. And you know, that's something you certainly don't want in the middle of a pandemic, knee-jerk reactions that are going to unstable the ship.
And I think what you generally see, and we've seen it throughout the industry, particularly over the last few years, really, those companies that have invested, you tend to get that positive momentum and inertia, and you end up spiraling in the right direction. It just goes from good to good to good, really. And also, you know, if you're making short-term decisions 2 or 3 years ago to reduce investment or just not invest at all, then it will catch you out. And I think we've seen that in our industry, you know, with some of our, you know, competitors, decisions that are made 3, 4, 5 years ago around investment. The pain usually comes, as I say, 3 or 4 years later on. And we're very, very careful not to be in that position. And the model works. You know, we don't have to convince a lot of people. Of course, we have to do due diligence, and we do the right thing with Quanex, and we explain our plans, and we make sure we have that return on investment. But that's about explaining, really, why we're doing things and the rationale behind it. But they're not difficult conversations. You know, the budget process here that I have with Quanex and the team have once a year is probably by far the simplest. 60 minutes. 60 minutes is, and we'll get that budget done and the capital investment signed off. And it's the highest ratio of investment I've ever been involved in any business, but it's also the simplest. Very, very clear, very simple about what we're trying to do, because the model works. So the confidence comes from the model, it works, we continue with the model, and therefore we continue to maintain this steady ship, which is heading in a great direction and really is just getting bigger and bigger as we go along. Yeah, again, another quick glimpse really into the world of Quanex, really. I mentioned George again, and again, say that's my boss over in America. Great guy, really down to earth, really good guy. We had the opportunity to invest quite recently in a new foiling machine, a new lunar foiling machine, state of the art, big ticket item as well. It came up earlier than we expected. We got a call from the supplier saying there was one available. This was in May. So we've really we've had March, April last year closed. We're getting into May time last year, and we have this opportunity. So I text my boss, George, just say, George's got an opportunity. It's this machine. We were looking for this. Can we go for it? I'd like to, and I can fill in all the forms later on, but I'm really just looking for a handshake by text message. You know, I get a reply within literally 2 to 3 minutes. Go for it, Martin, fill the forms. And if you think it's the right thing to do, keep going for it. And phenomenal. And that's genuine. Now, don't get me wrong. Of course, we fill in the forms. Of course, we do the right thing. Of course, we make sure we've got the payback. You know, we are a business and we have to manage ourselves in that way. But it's really what I'm trying to describe really is the way in which it's done. Extremely simple, very, very easy, no bureaucracy, no difficulty. Just we look at something, and if it looks like the right thing to do, then we get behind it and off we go. And that's remarkable for the entire team here at Liniar, and particularly myself, you know, in my job. Very, very good. You know, we're respectful of that relationship though. We don't ask for things that we don't need. We don't play the game and ask for extra thinking we might get knocked back. We're very open and transparent. And as I say, I suppose ultimately the confidence comes from if the model works and people see they get that return on investment, then people are they become more comfortable the more successful you are. And that's really what Liniar is. So it's a really, really good position.
I mean, you're hugely successful as a business, but you guys never flaunt it, do you, somehow? Is it a cultural thing that started from Roger all the way back? Because you seem to have a type of person that you bring in to Liniar who just work hard, enjoy what they do, don't flaunt the success. Is it a cultural thing, or is that a Quanex cultural thing?
Yeah, I think it is very much. It is a cultural thing. And you're right, you know, it did start with Roger. That's Roger's way, and that's Liniar and Avantex's way. And we've carried that on. Quanex are in exactly the same mold. And, you know, I'll tell you why that is really, is because we're all about the brand. You know, it's the brand that really, that's our strength. That's what we want people to think about when they think about Liniar and Avantec. And that brand really is about, you know, fantastic service, easy to deal with. That's really what we want. So we don't want to be too flash, you know, we want to be out there in the market. We want to be represented. Of course we do. And we want everybody to know about Liniar, but we'll do that through our marketing, careful marketing. You know, we're very, very careful to ensure that we come across correctly. We want people to understand what we are and people to have confidence in our brand, but we don't want to appear flash or over-promising or just trying to say the right things, because that's really not what we're about. And as I say, Quanex are in that mold as well. You know, keep doing the right things. The brand will gain its strength and people will understand the brand and people will relate to that brand, because again, it all boils back to really what customers believe, what we're about. And the acid test is always, what do our customers think about us? And at the moment, the feedback's very good. We're very close to them. We try and support them. We're very open and transparent. And ultimately, we just want to be a low maintenance, good supplier. In fact, in some ways, you could argue the less interaction we're having with each other daily means there aren't many problems. But we do interact, of course we do, but we're talking about positive things. What's the future hold? What about design? How can we do this? How can we work on that? Can we improve this system? So it's all about continuous improvement, and we are a learning organization, absolutely. We know we haven't got everything right, and there's lots and lots of things we want to do to improve going forward. But yeah, we know we were never flash, and we never really want to be flash going forward, really. And I do hope that comes across really to people. I think one of the things, you know, the phrases that we use internally, which may summarize really what I've just said, is that, you know, we very much, when people come and see Liniar, we want them to see a big organization, big in terms of size, scale, infrastructure, investment. And what we try and say to ourselves and to customers is, we're a big business, but we're not big business people. And that's a really good phrase that we use around this place. As I say, big in terms of here for the long term, fantastic facilities, super well invested, a very large, solid ship, but we are not big business people. We carry on with the same values that Liniar started with many, many years ago. You will never ring and get computer says no. You can have access to all the people that you used to speak to in the past, and we have that. We have customers talking to a whole variety of people. They don't have to come through switchboard. They don't have to queue up. Somebody always dealt with Fred in purchasing, and he used to answer their questions and help them along, and they continue to do so. And that's a real good measure for us. I think if customers believe that and say that you know what, Liniar is big in terms of size, scale, infrastructure, and everything I've said, but they don't operate as a big business, then we'd be delighted. That's one of our real key objectives, really.
Just to add to that, the great thing about Liniar, you know, and I was at Avantec for 3.5 years before I came over to Liniar, is the connection that our customers have to all departments within Avantec and Liniar. The customers don't necessarily phone the relevant sales director if they've got a question. It might be that they speak directly to technical, or they speak directly to design, to marketing, to accounts, to transport, to warehouse. You know, it's a family, Liniar. It is a family, and it's grown that way. And customers love that personal touch, that ability to just pick the phone up and speak to somebody, a person, whether it's 5 o'clock in the morning or 11 o'clock at night or 10 o'clock on a Saturday morning. It's very, very important, and we will continue to offer that level of service to our customers, certainly for as long as I'm here. I think it's so powerful and missed in a lot of businesses today, and it's so easy to do. You're just there to speak to people, listen to them, understand what they're going through, and try and deliver and over-deliver, under promise and over-deliver. So, yeah.
Is the success built on the way you treat your customers? Is it built on the service you supply or the actual products that you offer?
That's definitely got to be all three, Chris, without question. It's absolutely everything that we do. The design and the performance of the products, the continuous supply of very high quality products, the standard of delivery, the communication with the customer, the customer service. I think everything this year is going to be about customer service. The rest of the standard of the products and the quality and the technical side of all the products that we sell have always got to be right up there. But this year, I really do feel more than ever, with the supply chain that's going to struggle to keep up with demand, it's going to be about how Liniar cope with looking after our customers, keeping their confidence high, and keeping them informed of the changes that seem to happen on an hourly basis at the moment throughout Europe within our industry.
I mean, you don't really want to fill the place up with your fabricators so they're all tripping over each other either, do you really? The fabricators taking on more products and them expanding their ranges rather than you taking on lots of new fabricators?
Yeah, it's a good question, Chris. I mean, expanding, yes, because otherwise we'd be going backwards. Expanding, yes, because we've got a lot of headroom, a lot of capacity, as Martin said earlier. We're currently running at 60%. So yes, we've got the headroom to grow and to take on new business. We obviously put a pin in that last year because we wouldn't for 1 second entertain taking on new business while the supply chain was struggling to fulfill our customers' own demands. But turn of the year, absolutely 100%, that's our focus. I think we're in prime position to take on new business. We've just got to make sure we partner up with the right fabricators out there, and make sure that they fit into the Liniar family and we fit into their game plan as well. You know, not everybody has the same plans, and we respect that. You know, but it's going to be a very, very exciting year.
I think just to add a little bit to that, you know, are we commercial people? Of course we are. Do we want to grow the business? Yeah, absolutely we do. But that's about creating security for the people that work here, prosperity, and just heading in the right direction. So we're commercial people. We've got a real appetite and enthusiasm for growth, but we're not whipping ourselves into a frenzy, nor are Quanex whipping us into a frenzy to go out and grow the business at any cost. It really is, you know, it's continue to do what we've always done. Steady, sustainable growth, partnering with the people who, like Nigel says, you know, we share the same values and aspirations. That's really what it's about. So we're not arrogant and we're not complacent. We just try and be very, very calm about things. Again, it all comes back to this model. Great business, well invested, fantastic service, and you'll get the growth, but in a very sustainable way. That is so important for us. So yeah, great, really exciting. You know, we will go out, we're growing phenomenally, really. If we look at the growth plans at the moment on our 5-year plan, we are currently probably 2 to 3 years ahead of that plan. And that's because the market's very strong. We're doing very, very well, which is fantastic. But we're in a really good position in that regard. So yeah, from a Quanex and stakeholders point of view, are we heading in the right direction? Yes, and we're probably ahead. We are ahead by a few years. The growth has gone fantastic.
So I'd like to see one other thing on that. You mentioned about new products, Chris. It's a very good point. First of all, worth mentioning Chris Arms, our design director, and his team, because all the way through 2020, you know, Chris led a team of guys from all departments in Liniar, to be fair, from all departments, not just his own team, but they were actually manufacturing the Liniar face masks that we supplied over 40,000 or so to the NHS. So you might have to correct me on that number, but I think it was around about 40,000 from memory. So new product had a little bit of a pause on it because we had to do the right thing for the country and our employees and the NHS and the police force and all the other key workers. First of all, make sure safety was our priority. But without question, there's a lot of new products coming out of Liniar over the next 5 years. There's improvements to products that we've already got. We've listened to our customers. It's given us amazing time to sit down and talk to customers on Zoom or Teams or FaceTime or WhatsApp or whatever medium we've had. But we have had the chance to reflect, to listen, and to get projects out that maybe we, you know, just when you get so busy, things just take a little bit of a back seat. So we managed to get those projects out, address them with the senior management team, and make some really good decisions about the direction and the future that Liniar is going to take going forwards.
If you're going to then expand, are you expanding by taking on more customers, putting in additional products, or even veering away into a different range of products? How's that going to work in the future?
That's a good question. Well, let's take new products first of all. We covered that slightly. There's always going to be new products at Liniar. We're a very, very innovative company. The company was, as we know and we've mentioned, was formed by Roger Hartshorn, who was a tool maker and engineer by trade, and certainly a lot of the guys and girls within Liniar are technically minded and think that way about the products and their performance. So without question, the innovation and the high standards that we set ourselves internally at Liniar will continue to drive growth. You know, new products and innovation attract attention. and perform well out there in the market. So that's something that we will always do. Innovation is key for us going forward. New products, brand new products coming out. Yes, absolutely. We've already touched on that, Chris. There'll certainly be new products that are being launched all the time. But I would say cross-selling, existing customers cross-selling into markets that haven't been as buoyant before. You know, the outdoor product range market, as we know, I think you wrote an article recently, Chris, saying how much that had grown over the last year, 12 months. You know, something like 27 billion has been spent on outdoor product range, and that's outdoor. That's not internal house improvements. That's your garden, your fencing, your decking, your home office, your log cabin, your spa, whatever it is. There's an awful lot of money being spent externally in the house at the moment. And we have a lot of products in the Liniar outdoor product range. Our new deck board that we've just launched is a 150mm switchboard with a smooth face one side and groove the other. And it was completely taken out of stock the other day, almost in 4 days, with unprecedented demand. No, we didn't see that coming at all. It's absolutely phenomenal how many building products customers are buying at the moment to support the sales of windows and doors. You know, if you've just had a beautiful, you know, 5-pane alumina door foiled to match the windows and doors in your house, why not put a deck in front of it? You know, why not put a deck in front of it with some lovely balustrade and a, you know, made to order, supplied to your front door, just a DIY project for the weekend, and you've got a beautiful deck outside your alumina door. So cross-selling, I think, has been very key. The customers certainly aren't slowing coming forwards. They're extremely driven. They're all looking at ways of growing their business and making the most of the opportunities that they've got now. And certainly the Liniar product range and business covers all of that, all of those possibilities for them.
I mean, there are mixed messages, aren't there, coming out from systems companies, some with success and some otherwise. What gives you the advantage, if you like, at the moment? Because you seem to be going along very nicely, lots of ambitious plans for the future. What's your secret?
Yeah, I don't think there is any secret really, Chris. And I know we've touched on it throughout this discussion really, but it's just about we're very careful in what we set out to do. We do the simple things very, very well. We don't think we're smarter than anybody else because we're not. We certainly don't think we're more important than anybody else because we're not. We've just had a very simple model that we've explained, you know, investment, customer service, innovation, everything that we've discussed really. So we try and keep it very, very simple and just make sure always that we have got, in terms of capacity planning in infrastructure and investment, and I know I'm talking about that yet again, but it's so important. We make sure that those plans are at least 12 to 18 months ahead of when we go out and start talking about the promise. So we know that we can deliver on it. And very often, and I've been in businesses in the past, and I'm sure many of us have, where we kind of get the cart before the horse. We're doing the promise, we're doing the raising the expectations, and then we're going to see how it goes, and then we'll play catch up. And a lot of that just equals really, I suppose, frustration for customers and frustrations internally, because people don't like working in that environment either. We like to be very, very systematic, very well organized, and make sure that if we carry on with that analogy, but the horse is at least a mile ahead, well ahead, so that we can actually be very, very careful and make sure that we deliver on what we say we're going to do. So no secret. I often think not one big thing done very well, lots and lots of little things done consistently well to the same standard. It's really about standardization in everything. We have standardization in the plant and equipment that we use, and we have standardization about our strategic plans and everything that we set out to do really. And it's very, very, you know, it sounds simple, I know, but it isn't really that complicated. As I say, we're not, we certainly don't think we're any better than anybody else, that we're not. We have to get up every day. We have to work hard. We have to be absolutely focused on the challenges that we have. But it boils down to the team are all aligned. We know what we're trying to achieve, and we support each other through that. Do we deviate a little bit? Yeah, of course we do. You know, we're a big operation. We're a big turnover. We've got lots of complicated supply chain. There will always be, when you live in a house this big with a family of the size that we have, there are always going to be some day-to-day challenges, but that's why we're here. The big things, we do them we try and keep things, as I say, very simple and do those things very, very well. And I think that wins in the long run. I think it does win.
I think the culture as well at Liniar is something worth mentioning. I'm not saying that, you know, like as Martin says, it's not just one thing that's the secret to success, but certainly one of the things that I've noticed. And you know, I'm a big fan of teamwork, and you know, I don't think a lot of people still understand how powerful that is, to be honest with you. I'm ex-military. We've got a very small armed forces, but it's an extremely powerful force when people work together, and certainly that's the feeling that I've had since day one at Avantec and Liniar. You know, everybody cares, everybody's got a conscience, everybody works hard, not to just for the sake of it, but because they care, they genuinely care, and that ripples through every department and ends up giving us that higher level of customer service.
Yeah, I think, you know, as Nigel speaks, things come into your mind there, and I think that's right. I think it's always been here. It's always, certainly since I joined just over 4 years ago, great team spirit. People do a fantastic job and a great team. But if ever there was a time where we saw that, where we needed it, and we saw that, then it was 2020, really, during the COVID and everything that we faced. And, you know, it's nothing to do with job descriptions or people's position in an organization. People just cared, people stuck together. So all of those good qualities that I think we have here within our business just shone through during last year. So great team, and we should give those people a shout out, honestly, all of them. People who have worked over and above anything that could have been asked of them, honestly, and particularly in the senior management team. And it's not just about the senior management team, but obviously during those times early on, when the vast majority of the population are furloughed, it rests upon that group of people to try and cope with everything and continue to look after the business and steer the business. And they did an absolute phenomenal job, people working very, very hard. But again, because they care, and that's makes my job very, very easy, really. People do everything that they're doing the extra mile is because people care about this business. We're all stakeholders, and very powerful. Again, I've been in organizations where that probably doesn't exist, and it certainly doesn't exist to the strength and depth that we have here at Liniar at the moment. So very, very powerful. We're very appreciative of it, and we're very respectful of it, and we try and nurture that, but by being fair to everybody, really, and trying to make sure that people feel part of an overall team. And yeah, if ever there was a time where we couldn't be prouder of seeing those qualities in people, then it was certainly during 2020, when we were all worried and all very, very concerned. So, you know, it'd be wrong of me to not genuinely thank that entire team, everybody at Liniar and Avantec who went the extra mile, but particularly that senior management team who took a lot of pressure on them. They took a lot of extra, they went the extra mile and did a superb job. So very, very proud of them, and we thank them.
I mean, does your expansion come at the expense of other systems companies? Or is it going to be a matter that we're going to see consolidation within the industry, and then it's going to get shared out amongst the winning systems companies?
Yeah, I think we believe there will be further consolidation in the market. I think throughout the entire supply chain, there are some that are probably in a better position than others, whether that be, again, through, you know, investment or the ability to make long-term plans. I think there is some instability in that supply chain, without a doubt. And I think that makes customers nervous. You know, I think if ever there was a time where people are starting to think more medium to longer term about their supply chain partners rather than just price, then it's now, because I think 2020 proved that, really. You know, the entire supply chain was having difficulties, and some suppliers were struggling more than others. There's no doubt about that. So I think customers will value that and look at that a lot differently going forward than they possibly did in the past, whether that be around profile, hardware, glass, whatever the material may be. But on those materials that are extremely important to fabricators, we do believe that they'll be taking a more medium to longer term view on that. And we'd like to think we'd benefit from that. And it comes back to, again, us trying to be quite under the radar, You know, we want to be under the radar, as I say. We're not trying to be flash about what we do. We just want people to understand that Liniar really is. It's a very good brand. It's based on service, and it's really about this big ship. You know, big ship, well invested, very stable, on course, going in exactly the right direction, and solid. And I think, you know, customers all want to get on board with that, and particularly customers who have been involved in any part of the supply chain, wherever it can be, not just systems houses, but wherever it is. If you see nervousness and risk in your supply chain, and you've experienced some of the concerns that you have through 2020, I think it's really given people a wake-up call to think more about the next 3, 5 to 10 years. And particularly because some customers who were involved at any part of the supply chain, so not just systems houses, but if you found yourself partnering with suppliers that weren't able to meet your demand or offer that level of service, then your business will have suffered. There is absolutely no doubt about that. So I think there's a completely new focus on the entire supply chain, who we partner with, and trying to be aligned with those people that are a big, solid ship, really. And again, we believe that Liniar and Avantec offer that, and that's what we're trying to be.
Yeah, I think without question, a number of our customers have benefited from a stable supply chain. There's no question about that. They have definitely taken the opportunities that have come their way. Some of the markets were slower to open up, new build, for example, social housing. So where we had linear fabricators that were, under normal circumstances, supplying those markets and they weren't open, then they obviously had a capacity that they could fill with some decent trade accounts. And, you know, Liniar were able to supply. We were able to supply, and we were able to communicate the delivery times, and they were accurate. We learned the hard way. We learned what our customers wanted to hear, how much they wanted to know, and how much they didn't want to know. And once we'd got through that and were able to deliver that message, there was a good system of, this is when you order it, this is when you'll get it, and they got it. You know, we delivered through with it. So without question, our customers have taken advantage of being Liniar with all products, you know, across the product range, from the you know, the casement window and door systems right the way through to alumina, the roofing system. I mean, the roofing and fencing and decking departments have grown so much. And certainly fabricators that weren't necessarily buying those products before have realised it's a great opportunity to grow. Why wouldn't you look at a deck outside your new bifold, or a lantern roof on top of a flat roof extension? It's a no-brainer at the moment. It enhances the home. They look fantastic, and they're there for a long time. So yeah, we've definitely taken advantage of being part of a stable supply.
And that's what ultimately helps us to outperform the market. You know, what the market's going to do in the future, who knows? That's for sure. We never really know. Of course, we read the tea leaves and we look at all the information and data, and we have a view on this at budget time. But one of the things that we have been very confident about probably over the last several years is that whatever the market's doing, we feel that we've outperformed that market to some extent. And that's really just what we try and do. Always just trying to outperform the market. Again, you know, I've said it, I don't know how many times during this conversation, really, Chris, but it really all comes back to service. Everything that we're doing, all of our decision-making, planning, strategic planning, really comes back to really that acid test of, can we deliver good, consistent, reliable service? And, you know, we've had many customers in this, and prospective customers who sit in the boardroom, and we talk a lot and we go through different aspects of the business. But, you know, if we're asked the question about what do we really do well, and, you know, we answer it quite simply. Sometimes I worry it's too simplistic, really, but it's this straightforward. You know, you order Monday, we deliver Wednesday. You order the following Monday, we deliver the following Wednesday. And that's back to being this non-complicated, easy to deal with, very reliable supplier. And again, I do think that is the absolute acid test for us. If we keep doing that very, very well, we will continue to outperform the market and grow and be successful.
I mean, we've established, haven't we, that you're obviously very happy with Quanex as your bosses. They're obviously very happy with you. You've blown your 5-year targets. You're up over 100 million turnover. What happens now? Because are you going to have to write a completely new 5-year plan? And what's that going to look like?
No, we don't. We don't have to set a completely new 5-year plan, to be honest with you. We just really reset that baseline. So we have seen phenomenal growth. As I say, we're probably at least 2 years ahead of that 5-year strat plan that we wrote last year. And we'll just reset the starting point for that and then continue to grow. So all of the initiatives that we had, whether that be around new business, new products, whatever it may be, we'll just layer them into this new baseline, which will just keep the actual gradient going in the right direction. I think we've just benefited from, significant demand that's out there. We've done very, very well in terms of new business, although as Nigel says, we've been very cautious. We haven't brought new business on until we're sure we can satisfy the existing business, but we are doing very well in terms of new business. And that really results from back to the beginning, which is that customers want to really align themselves with a solid supplier. So no, we're very excited and we're very pleased. Of course, if Quanex are listening, then we downplay it all. We try and make sure that we set their expectations correctly and don't over-egg it at any time. But no, joking aside, very pleased that we get ahead of the 5-year plan. That gives us confidence, not arrogance at all. It just gives us the confidence to know that we're heading in exactly the right direction, and let's keep doing the things that we'd planned to do over the next 3 to 5 years. Do that, and it'll just lend itself to this continued, sustainable, steady growth. And that's really what it's about for us.
Thank you very much, Martin. Thank you, Nigel. Much appreciate your time and for being so open. And thank you very much indeed, and good luck for the future.
Well, thank you, Chris. Honestly, we really appreciate you taking the time, and it's a pleasure to be able to just have a little bit of a conversation, really, and tell you a little bit about our business. So, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Chris, very much. Lovely to see you again. Look forward to seeing you when you've trimmed that beard, and obviously we welcome you to Liniar as soon as it's safe and possible. Chris, it'd be lovely to catch up with you properly, have a sandwich and a cup of tea, and talk about the future. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, Chris. Thanks very much. You take care.